But so you can see what's going on. Penalty if I get you passing up here. Oh, okay. There you go. I think I can see what you're doing. It makes you.
It does. And then that Josh Allen was, he's coming.
It's a replay guy.
What about that pencil rig?
Oh, no, you know, but it's.
Right, right. Makes things. You know, we've seen this.
Yeah, more than one. You know, on that, leg, I told this three. He got the blind and. Was in the news to when. He stopped the market.
Yeah.
Right.
You
have how they did majority of.
I saw this really funny AI thing online the other day. It was this referee.
I haven't asked about yours.
Before the play, test experience. Against the defense.
Yeah.
It's like we're in Kansas City, the game. Came over.
No snow.
Sounds like it was a dribble. Did you?
They're doing all the commercials.
Wait.
Yeah, she was Taylor.
I caught two balls.
I get there on There's meetings out there. Yeah. So there's gonna be a lot of people sitting there.
It's coming soon.
And being attentive. Yeah.
All right, everybody, I'd like to welcome you to the edition of Rotary for January 27th. Here to do our prayer pledge and four-way test is Deborah. Pledge will be.
Please pray with me. Father, we thank you so much for this time we can come together as Rotarians to seek how to better serve humanity and also our own community. Father, as we come to a period of our world where there's a lot of ups and downs, we know, Father, that you would be in line with us praying for peace today. So, Father, we ask that that would prevail and that, Father, in our hearts, we could start with our community. Help us, Father, to be the people who would build bridges to save mankind and to build up everything around us. And so, Father, with that in mind, we ask that you bless the food that we've just had and that you'd help us to use the energy from that food to build your kingdom. It's your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would you face the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four things we think, say, and do first. Second, third, will build goodwill, better friendships, and fourth, will to all concerned.
Thank you, Neville. All right, team of three, any updates?
I'll give a quick update. Our team is meeting the third Monday of the month, 5 o'clock on Zoom. If anybody would like to join us, we need team members. We're starting to lose some members. If you haven't noticed, we have new branding, which I think kind of gives a little bit of update to our club. So that's the update.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, we do have a board meeting today after today's meeting. Sean.
Yes, we have guests. We have Sean Lowell. Sean, you want to stand up and tell us what you do, Sean? Welcome.
Sure. So I'm literally a community volunteer. That's what I do. So that is my full-time job. I have heard of Rotary clubs before, but never came to one. But I saw it on Facebook and I was like, oh, they volunteer. Maybe I should go. So I'm here to
welcome. We love people that volunteer. We have an opening for president next year.
Year after.
I'm sorry. I don't want to rush you into anything. Welcome. Sherry Olson from Baywatch. Sherry, come on in and tell us what you do.
Oh, do I just stand up? I am the newly appointed outreach and development manager as of this year. I keep just making up titles as I go. Or they
Just
just,
get AI and they'll
Yeah.
get you something cool.
yeah, I've kind of just taken off running since I walked in the door and they've just had to kind of keep up with me, so.
Well, BAWAC is a wonderful organization, has a place off Industrial Road and, take care of folks with, developmental disabilities like we do at New Perception. So welcome, Sherry.
Thank you.
Brandon Santos. Welcome, Brandon.
Hello, everybody. So my name is Brandon Santos. I work for the Comparion Insurance Agency, which you probably never heard of. It's a division of Liberty Mutual, which I know you've seen the commercials. I met Ian at the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce meeting, and he had mentioned that he was part of the Rotary Club, and I said I've always wanted to get involved in the community. I actually live in Cincinnati, so don't hold that against me, but I work in Florence, and so it just worked out, and so just wanted to give back to the community that I work in.
Great.
Awesome.
Now we have, cooked ostrich next week. What do we do with Liberty? Maybe we can get one of those wax figures of Ian. Yeah, that's he looks. Yeah. Gil is back with us. Gil from the Covington Club. Gil, welcome back, my friend.
It's good to be back. And I get to be your AG until 1st of July. And that's when this club is going to be shocked because Greg's going to be your governor. And he's going to require so much of this club, you're all going to be tired at the end of his term. I wish Greg the best in your club as well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Gil. Ruff, am I saying that correctly?
Hello, my name is Prof. I'm a physician at St. E. And also I'm on the board of Refugee Connect, so I'm here with you guys and be nice.
Well, Ruff. Ian's got this thing he would like you to take a look at if you don't mind. We can't do that here on Facebook. It's all good. The football thing, it always just keeps happening. The Chiefters, they just keep getting another call after call. Doesn't matter what it is. Sorry for any of you Chief fans in here. I don't like you. That's just what it is. But hopefully we'll change the thing. And Greg, since you're gonna be governor, yeah, I would like to be pardoned from now until whenever. If you don't mind, yeah, is that okay? Yeah, my confession was to be pardoned forever. Now you gotta. We'll get you a list of who these pardoned. Yeah. I don't think I have 3,000, but I got quite a few.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
All right, so reflection from RLI this weekend, Mark and Greg, I guess, both attended.
Greg and I went down to the Rotary Leadership Institute on Saturday. Had a full day of activities. 6 different speakers for my group. I was in group 1, Greg was in group 2. Being my first time, his second time down. Went down to the Rotary Leadership Institute. Very entertaining, and I learned a lot. I've been in Rotary now for 19 years, and I would have loved to have gone to something like that 19 years ago. I think it should change its name from the Leadership Institute to the Learning Institute, because it's not. At least phase 1 is truly designed to let you know what it means to be a Rotarian and what we do as Rotarians and how we can move forward in serving our community as Rotarians. So I recommend it. Like I said, I've been 19 years. I got a lot out of it. So I recommend it to everyone, be it this is your first year or your 20th. It's well worth the effort. And then afterwards, Greg and I went to Malone's and had a couple bourbons and big steaks. So it worked out quite well. I'll get that right now.
All right, I'll say it. Greg, did you have anything to add to that?
No. I'd like to introduce the district governor-elect for 2027-28.
There you go.
All right, I've ever heard. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Quite a few bourbons to volunteer for that. All right, Rotarians out and about. Cool, you got quite a few.
Yeah, so, of course, I spend a lot of time in Delaware. And I had given them one of our flags, but they were out of flags. And so, when I was there this past week, the hotel I stay in, it's a courtyard on the University of Delaware campus, actually is where they have their Rotary meetings. And so, Bill, who's the gentleman in the back in the blue shirt, is the manager of the hotel. Super nice guy, introduced me to all these other Rotarians because I was there on a Friday night. Typically, I fly home on Fridays, but it was half the price to fly home on Saturday. So I flew home on Saturday, had dinner with a bunch of Rotarians.
Oh.
But the cool part is this gentleman here in the front standing next to me, Dan, is a retired fire chief in England. And he gave me a fantastic idea for our signature event. And I messaged it to Ian and I called Dwayne. So they every year in February do a Celebrate Life event, and people have been saved by AEDs in their community, which they provided. They celebrate the lives that have been saved. They invite the families, they invite the dispatchers, the police officers. So I'm thinking for my year as president of foundation next year, that maybe that's the signature event that we start. Since we've started the project Heart Restart project, it just kind of ties into that, and I think it'd be a great celebration of life. So I'm thankful that I was in Delaware an extra day and met this job. The other thing, Will Baker introduced me to a friend of ours who is now secretary of the Lexington chapter or club. And I happened to go to a conference all day on Friday, and lo and behold, Alicia was there. So that's Alicia and I at a conference in Lexington on Friday.
Good, outstanding.
All right.
I think you might also.
What's the brand hotel? What brand? is it?
It's Courtyard by Marriott.
Courtyard by Marriott. Okay, because I'm kind of staying away from Hilton's.
Yeah, I actually became a platinum member in Marriott in December, so.
Teacher of the Year nominations, let's see, I guess they're open now, but
Yeah.
until March 7th, okay. And then scholarship applications are also being accepted until March 7th, so. We will celebrate, the Teacher of the Year, event at the Florence Event Center again. The scholarship application or the scholarship presentation will be done here. And then we also have the Heritage Hall of Fame that we're going to give to Barb Keeling. We mentioned that previously. That's happening February 24th. That is going to be at the event center as well. Birthdays, February 1st. I don't think it's February 1st, but it's in February. Peter Wyken.
That's what's in the system.
30 years old again.
And then Billy Santos, 18 years as a Rotarian. So
Yeah, that's right.
excellent. A long time. All right, coming in March. More to hear about this one. I caught him off guard here. Dave Wolfer is going to help us get Rotary gear. If anybody's interested in such things, there will be an official order form. We'll have samples. That's coming in March. Let's see. There's the Pappy Van Winkle raffle that's happening. The raffle runs until March 1st. $100 per ticket. This will benefit the Brain Injury Alliance, who was a speaker previously. All right, happy dollars. Anybody have any happy dollars? I've got two of them. Most importantly, one of my babies turned 15 today, or turns 15 today. I guess.
Wow.
222 exactly. So I'm, feel like I'm turning into a skeleton already. And my other one was for the good season that the Fighting Irish had this year. So we came up a little short, but yeah, all good.
That's good.
Now for the main event.
No, wait, I got a point of order.
Oh.
Well, I see Patty and I were having lunch Friday, and I get a call from Barb Keeling. And our dear Barb's always got something going. She's in Georgia heading for Florida. Says, can you take care of this for me? And what it was, she volunteers for hospice at the Blue Cross. And they got an emergency need for toiletries for their clients. Apparently they're really short, plus they could use more volunteers. So you'll see a newsletter that's going around. It's going to be our project of the month for the community service thing. So I think it's a great effort for us to do, and it doesn't take a whole lot to do it. So if you can help, we appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Beth.
And Julie?
Yep.
You're gonna introduce our speakers?
Yes, I am.
So I met Kristin, wait, 7 years? Five. When a friend of mine introduced me to this organization, Refugee Connect. So that friend of mine is Ms. Sarda Kurdier, who is a refugee from Bosnia, I believe, and wrote a book, I'm a Refugee. A long time ago, I don't know if you guys remember, but she actually came to Rotary and told her story. And when I read her book, it was the first time I realized what many of our students coming into our school system had gone through just to get that they've been shot at, they've been in camps. It's heart-wrenching, and to understand the trauma that they go through when they come here was eye-opening and changed my perspective when I was on our school board. So I became involved in Refugee Connect to kind of be a liaison with the organization and our school system to kind of help our educators understand more what so many of our students and families were coming from. So I shared out Kristin's background, and I want to leave enough time for Kristin to talk about the organization, and I know you're going to have questions about what's going on, so I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Kristin.
While she's doing that, thank you all so much for inviting me here today to speak about Refugee Connect. I always love to present about our work because we are very responsive to the needs of refugees living in our region. Oftentimes people don't know what we do or that they have refugees living in their communities. So I'm here today to maybe help create some awareness about the refugee community and the services that Refugee Connect provides to that community. So we are on a mission to connect refugees with resources as they rebuild their lives here in the United States. And we use a very broad definition of refugees. So it spans beyond just people who are coming through refugee resettlement programming to include people who are asylums, include people who are here on special immigrant visas or coming through humanitarian parolee programs. So those are all programs through our government that bring people here who might be affected by political persecution, or maybe there was a natural disaster that happened in their home country. But we want to make sure that we are being inclusive of all refugees. They would be named specifically as a refugee type. Just to kind of put some faces to the organization, because I am just one person and my job is really just to fundraise and to present, but we have all these wonderful staff members who are really the heartbeat of Refugee Connect. They are the people that are out there every day providing support to families to make sure that they are thriving in our community, that they feel welcome, that they know what resources are available, and they know how to get the services that they can access. They also help families to navigate incredibly complex US systems like the education system, the healthcare system, financial systems. So we work with families to really provide context around those systems, ensuring that they know how to be the best advocates for their families. Our navigator team started in 2020 in response to the pandemic, and I will go a little further into that program here in a moment, but this is a fairly new program. So we're in year 5 of offering our community navigator program. And there were some things that kind of spun out of that initial investment in community navigators. So now we have specialized navigators who work with families around specific topical areas. So our college and career readiness program supports high school seniors in helping them to determine post-secondary opportunities and coaching them through that process. Many of these students are first-generation college students, and most of them have had limited or interrupted formal education, especially if they were refugees living in refugee camps. And then we also have our Health Navigator program, and that is working directly with families who might have intensive medical needs, helping to support them around navigating the healthcare system and healthcare related resources. So just to kind of give you a timeline of the organization, historically Refugee Connect was a project of the Junior League of Cincinnati. So for 2 years, the Junior League did a needs assessment on the refugee community, specifically looking at what challenges existed for this community. And what came out of that assessment was that there was really a lack of coordinated services for refugees in our region. And there was a lack of education to refugees about those resources, services, and benefits and how they could access those services. So Refugee Connect was created to address those gaps, to bring together service providers, a community-based organization, educators, employers, to start to network together, to figure out how they could best support this growing community. In 2018, Refugee Connect became an independent nonprofit. And during those first 2 years of Refugee Connect as an independent nonprofit, it was 2 staff members, 2 full-time staff members, the executive director and the program director. We were at that time primarily working in Hamilton County with refugees that were living in that county. We had a federal grant for through the Office of Refugee Resettlement to provide refugee school impact programming. So we were co-located at Cincinnati Public Schools, supporting identified students and their families that attended those schools. And then the pandemic hit, and I uprooted myself from Portland, Oregon to drive across country in April of 2020 to become executive director of Refugee Connect. I accepted this position in early February, so I didn't know that driving across country during that time was going to be scary, but I made it. I actually have over 15 years of experience working with immigrant communities in different cities across the US. I started my career in Louisville, Kentucky, working for an educational nonprofit that supports over 5,000 immigrant and refugees a year. That particular community center where I worked for the first 9 years of my career has the largest adult continuing education program in the state of Kentucky. And we were blessed enough as an organization to have a physical school building that used to be an all-girls Catholic school where we provided services, which allowed us to bring in Jefferson County Public Schools, different providers to offer an array of services to the community. When I worked in Oregon, I worked in hospital-based services for about a year with children affected by pediatric cancer and their families. And a disproportionate amount of those families were immigrant families. And I quickly found out about myself that that was not a field where I wanted to be. Hospital services. It was incredibly emotional to see kids die of cancer, essentially. I also worked for a national nonprofit where we provided social emotional health and support to school districts across the United States. I worked primarily with school districts in Oregon and Southwest Washington, and a lot of the schools that I partnered with had high rates of refugee. But when I came on board in 2020, the schools were shut down. And so we no longer had a physical location to go and meet with parents. And we knew from what we were hearing from the community at that time, that parents were not getting information about COVID-19. They weren't getting information about remote schooling. They were losing employment, maybe for the first time. They had always been full-time employed, and suddenly they found themselves unemployed and losing income. And nobody was giving them information in their native language. And so we contracted with what we call cultural leaders, people in the community who are members of the immigrant refugee communities, who are native language speakers, who are also bilingual in English, who are seen as natural helpers, the people that, everyone in their community went to when they had a problem and needed support. And so we hired them, trained them, gave them a network of peer support and a network of over 300 resources and organizations that could support their community, and sent them back out into their community to provide that support to families. We thought initially, well, I think like a lot of people, we thought, oh, this is just going to be a few months and then, everything's going to go back to normal. And we quickly realized that one, there was a new normal, and two, that our families were actually starting to do better economically, socially, emotionally. And so we decided as an organization to pivot our services to for this vision of this community navigator program. In 2020, we supported about 50 families. In 2024, we supported 323 families. We have went from just being in Hamilton County to we are in 6 counties, over 15 school districts. We partner with multiple school districts to provide programming at partner schools. Our families come from 38 countries of origin. They speak 25 languages. And on average, a family will be supported by a navigator for about 11 months. So we also understand through our data that families kind of need that longer support to be able to do well, to be self-sufficient. So we don't put like time limits. So a lot of organizations, maybe because they have specific grants or they're federally funded, they can only provide support for a certain period of time. We do not do that. 60% of our client population are refugees who have been here less than 5 years. The rest of them have been here longer because maybe they have new situations or new challenges and they just need some support around those challenges. So this is just kind of a breakdown to give you some visuals of who we're supporting and who we're providing support to. And we do that through our core programs, one of which is the Health Navigator program. So in 2022, with the support of the BI3 fund, we fully launched this Health Navigator program because what we were seeing during the pandemic was that families were really struggling with unmanaged chronic medical conditions, mental health diagnoses, and other types of health-related issues. And we knew that if we could implant some health navigators in our community, that we might see some positive health outcomes for this community. Our health navigators are certified community health workers, so they go through a certification process in Ohio to do that work. And then they go back out in the community and help families navigate the healthcare system. They teach them how to make doctor's appointments. They have a chronic medical condition. They help provide context around that medical condition. Why you go back to the doctor multiple times, because that is boring to a lot of people. Understanding prescription medication, understanding mental health diagnoses, helping them to access health insurance, because a lot of our families qualify for health insurance, but they've never applied, and because no one's ever shown them how to do that. Helping them with health insurance renewal, and also providing them with support around social determinants of health. So do you have enough food? Are you housing stable? Do you have gainful employment? And in addition to those navigators working directly with the community, we also partner with Children's Hospital. We have a board member who's a physician there, and she leads a fellowship program at Children's. And we started to build a health literacy library, which is available through our website. Those videos are in 8 languages in addition to English, and they're around health-related topics that our community has identified as being the most pressing health literacy topics for refugees. So those videos are simple. They're very broad. They're intentionally meant to be that way so that it could be a conversation starter. So say you're working with someone and they had a mental health diagnosis and they're put on maintenance medication. We see this all the time. They take the medication, they start to feel good and think, oh, I'm cured, and they start taking their medication. So we provide health promotion around those types of topics to help them understand the range of healthcare and healthcare related resources. We also provide training. So we do culturally responsive trauma informed training to a variety of partners, including our healthcare partners, but we go into schools. I did a whole year of training with strategies to end homelessness. We did a mental health training with RCoFKy. I've trained principals and teaching staff at Burgoyne County High School, at CPS. So we offer training to any of our partners who reach out and request that. And we tailor that training. So we have discussions with those organizations. What are you seeing in your organization? What challenges are your staff facing? And then we develop training based on the needs of the organization. We also provide our school-based services. So we have held the Refugee School Impact Program for Hamilton County. I think this is the 10th year now. So that allows us to go into specific schools and work with students in those schools and their families to kind of improve academic achievement. We do that by working with the family around things that are happening outside of school that might prevent a child from being able to be fully present when they're in school. We also have our college and career readiness navigator. So that's Ebony with a Burgoyne County High School graduate, actually. That's her in the picture. She has worked with high school students in Burgoyne County High School and Aiken High School and CPS for the past 2 years, supporting them around post-secondary opportunities, providing one-on-one coaching to those students. She does everything from help them apply for college, take campus tours, get into technical trade schools, fill out financial aid, apply for scholarships. And she's also working with some of those graduating seniors now that they're in college. They have some resources, they need some resources that they don't know how to access on their campus. 100% of the high school seniors that we have worked with through the College and Career Readiness Navigator program have graduated high school, which is a big deal for refugee students. And then we piloted a program called Parent Academy, where we go into schools, partner schools, and we do facilitate 6 weeks of workshops with identified parents of students who attend those schools, teaching them about the U.S. education system, their role as a parent in their child's education, how to build relationships with their child's school and district, and what leadership opportunities exist at the schools for those parents. The first pilot program that we did this at was at Princeton schools. We had 20 parents engaged in that program, and we took them to a Board of Education meeting for the first time. They didn't even know that existed. And now those parents are active in their children's schools. So we're hoping to continue to be able to offer that program across the region to different school partners. So that's kind of everything that we, I don't know why the H is missing on English, but I can fix that.
But no, it's actually there. It's dropping down for some reason. Yeah.
First on the back screen, so I would look at the screen, it's better. We have a partnership with the Cincinnati Playhouse, and this will be the second year that we've held a fundraising event there. This year it will be March 28th around the Play English. We've been so lucky the last 2 years. There have been plays about refugees. So we buy out the theater, we have cocktail reception before the play, and then we all watch the play together. We hire some immigrant chefs to come in for the food, and if you are interested in attending, there is a QR code where you can register for tickets. I'd love to see you there. And then, people often ask me, how can we support you? Well, financially is always a good way, but we also have volunteer opportunities. So if you're ever interested in learning more about how you can volunteer to support refugees, please feel free to reach out to me. We do family day events 4 times a year where we bring the families together around a fun event. The one that's coming up for us soon will be in June. June 14th, we'll have our World Refugee Day event. We're doing it down at Sawyer Point this year in partnership with Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement, Kentucky Refugee Ministries. We'll have about 400 refugees coming to that event. We definitely need volunteers for that event. We promote volunteerism. For us, it's a way for people from the larger community to show up and be a welcoming face. Because we know that often refugees are very socially isolated in our community. And they just need to know that there are people out there in the community who care about them, who want them here, who appreciate them, and who know that they have a lot of skills and strengths that they bring to the larger and contributions to the larger community. So we're always trying to find ways to get people in volunteer. We have a lot of great supporters. Our work would not happen without some of these large local foundations who really believe in our mission, who helped us start the Navigator program, who helped us start the Health Navigator program, and who provide that continued support. So I always like to make sure that we are recognizing those sponsors. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, our YouTube channel, and we have a website. If you are on LinkedIn, please follow us and follow you back. Thank you.
Questions?
I know you mentioned some percentage. How many people are involved in the refugee? Do you all manage? And then on an average, how long does it take before they become self-sufficient and working and into the society?
So we have 2 refugee resettlement programs in our region. Catholic Charities in Southwest Ohio resettles refugees on the Ohio side, and Kentucky Refugee Ministries, which is has a new office in late 2021 in Covington. They are largely funded by the government because they are the voluntary agencies that contract with the US government to bring refugees here. Our government would tell you, based on that funding, that they will be self-sufficient within 90 days. So that means they will have been full-time employed, have stable housing, have their kids enrolled in school, have learned English, and no longer need support of a case manager to access services. We know that isn't true because organizations like Refugee Connect would not exist if that were true. There is a thing called the long welcome. So that is this idea that refugee and immigrant communities, well, maybe they're partially self-sufficient after a period of time. Cultural integration takes a long time. And families who are, for example, during the pandemic, we had families who had always been full-time employed, both parents, for the whole 10 years they lived here. And then suddenly they were unemployed. But nobody in that 10 years had ever educated them about unemployment insurance. So they didn't know that they had access to resources. We might have families who have lived here 5+ years who are now at the point where they're thinking about buying a home, but nobody has ever done home education. So it really is just individualized, and it depends on the family. It depends on their individual circumstances. Again, 70% of our families have lived here 5 years or less. So we know that there are at least that 40% that still needed some support around something. I think that, in my 15 years of being in this work, I could never put a timeline on like when someone was completely self-sufficient because it really depends on the individual family, their background, their history, and especially what country they were coming from. And particularly if there was a lot of war in that country, there are a whole group of refugees, for example, from Burundi that lived in refugee camps from 1972 until mid-2000. They were pre-literate, even in their own language. Their level of integration here takes probably 2 generations because of that circumstance under which they lived. They had children born in refugee camps. So I think it just depends on the context of where they are coming.
We had a young woman speak about 5 years ago, and it was interesting that how she perceived the United States and how she learned English was from the TV show 901, 902.
Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
That was Versada.
So she
That was
goes to
Versada.
Burgoyne County High School and realizes that there's no palm trees and we're seeing park in the parking lot. And it was nothing like the TV show. How do you assimilate that? You know, here's what we have on TV, what she thought that was our culture, you know, to Boone County High School.
It's a pretty typical experience, and I think you're talking about Versada.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think that's difficult because, so there's a documentary called Rain in a Dry Land. If you ever get access to it, you should watch it because it kind of shows you what refugees are taught prior to arriving in the US, and their perceptions about where they're going. And often refugees, especially if they're coming through refugee resettlement, they don't know which city they're going to end up in until maybe 1 week, 2 weeks before they so even if they have family ties in New York City or, you know, another large city, depending on the voluntary agency that is assuring their case, that is someone saying, I will accept this family, they may not go where they think they're going. So they might end up in Northern Kentucky when in their head, that vision is, you know, New York City. So I think it's up to the individual communities of people. So Northern Kentucky residents, for example. I'm a Northern Kentucky resident, I live in Bellevue. It is up to us to make sure that we're aware of who is living in our neighborhoods and how we can show up for those neighbors to help them. Because I think personally, having lived in Louisville and now living in Northern Kentucky, I think that Kentucky residents are very welcoming to international people. I know that, you know, there are some negative things that happen, but I think that there are good people everywhere. And I think that it is up to us as good neighbors to be that welcoming place for refugees and immigrants. If you develop a relationship or a friendship with a refugee, they're more likely to stay in your neighborhood. And we know through national research that when immigrants move into a neighborhood, they actually reduce their crime rate. So we know that they have these strengths that they bring with them, that they're hardworking, that they're really here because they want their families to be safe, first and foremost. They want their children to have good educational opportunities, and they want to be contributing members of our society. Sometimes they just need a helping hand to get there. Yes.
Do the refugees ever express a desire to go back to their home?
If they're coming through refugee resettlement, usually no. And that's because the reason they are here as refugees is because they couldn't. Do they want to? So I think they would love to be back in their homeland, but because of what is happening in their country, it's not safe for them to be there. And that's even true of some asylums that are here, who have had to leave their country because of persecution. I think we recently saw, so we have a group of Syrians that live here in our region, and Syria was just liberated, their regime fell there. That happened on the same day as one of our family day events. We had a lot of Syrians that came to the zoo with us and they were so elated and happy. Will they immediately return to Syria? Probably not, because it's still unstable and they're rebuilding that country. And they probably don't have a home to go back to be honest. And then you have groups of refugees who lived in camps for many, many years and are stateless. They were effectively stateless before they were resettled to the United States. Yes.
Gil, last question.
Thank you. Would you say a little bit more about, the other organizations who might be in partnership with what you do?
Yeah, so we partner with both resettlement agencies, so Catholic Charities, Southwest Ohio, and Kentucky Refugee Ministries. We partner with Fiesta, which is a Northern Kentucky organization, and maybe she's spoken with them before. Esperanza Latino Center, the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center, which is a free resource for immigrants who are trying to adjust their status. So they do all kinds of humanitarian programs, including citizenship filings. We are legal immigration lawyers, specifically trained in immigration law. So they are a great resource for our community. We have some self-identified groups, so that might be like cultural leaders that have kind of formed their own groups. KAWA, which is the Kentucky African Women's Association. Fatu Soare is the president of that. She is a Northern Kentucky resident and also on the board of Refugee Connect. And then the Afghan Association. So we try to kind of identify those different immigrant serving organizations that we can partner with to kind of strengthen our services and strengthen the support that we provide to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great.
Don't worry, she's still with us. Okay. I mean, we had.
All right, so next week we will have, let's see, February 3rd, Michael Orr from the Brighton Center will be our speaker that day. So in the meantime, get together with another Rotarian for lunch and take a picture of it and send it to us. All right. Until then.